So now let's go and look at question 19. Actually, we can look at 19 through 21. We'll come back to these. These are about reflections. These are review questions. I want to try to only do the rotation questions and then come back to the reflection questions later. So, number 22, true or false? A rotation of 90 degrees about O results in O prime equaling to O. Do we need to even look at the illustration to answer this question? I hope not. I hope that you remember that when you rotate about a point, that point remains fixed, so that the center point always maps into itself. So this is automatically true. Okay, let's look at number 23. A rotation of 120 degrees about O carries A, B, C, D, E, F onto itself. Okay, so this is the same kind of terminology that we've used before when we talk about the figure falling right on top of itself. Okay, so let's see what a rotation of 120 degrees about O does. So I've made a fresh new start here. I've got another hexagon over this hexagon, and I've lined up the starting points, and we need to rotate this entire figure about O by 120 degrees. So we need to end up over here, right? That's positive 120. So let's get our red dot so it's at 120. And now let's take a look. And do these figures look like they are lining up on top of each other? They most certainly are. Okay, so the answer to this is true. A rotation of 120 does carry the image onto itself. The next question, number 24, asks about a rotation of 250 degrees. So let's start again. Let's bring the starting points back so that they're on top of each other. And then let's rotate 250 degrees. Well, where's 250 degrees? We've got 240 degrees down here, right? 240 degrees. And we've got 300 degrees over here. So 250 has got to be somewhere between 240 and 300. We don't exactly know where, but we know it's not on either of these lines. It's somewhere in between. So let's maybe a little bit past 240, like maybe around there or so. So let's go ahead and let's take this figure and let's rotate it around approximately where we think 250 would be. So let me just try to get this lined up so we can see what we're doing. And let's rotate this red dot around. So right now we're at 60. It's lined up. We're at 120. It's lined up. It's at 180 now. It's lined up. Right there. We're going to 240. It's lined up. Okay, the problem is that there's no place between 240 and 300 where it lines up again. So, as we rotate this around from 240 to 300, it's not lined up anywhere in here, right? It has to be on a ray like that in order for the figures to completely line up. If they're lined up there, they're not lined up anywhere between these two, but then they're lined up again when we're pointing directly at 240. So the angle measure has to be a multiple of 60 in order for the figure to map onto itself. If 250 was about there, it wouldn't map on to 60, 270, 280, 290, 300, all the way up to 300. Until 300, it would not map again. Okay, so 250 will not carry A, B, C, D, E, F onto itself. So number 24 is false. Has to be a multiple of 60 degrees. Let's look at number 25. It's asking about a rotation of 180 degrees about O results in F mapping to C. Okay, this right arrow we used up in a previous question. This is a shorthand for saying that we're mapping F into C. This is the pre-image and this is the image. So does a rotation of 180 map F into C? Let's check and see. Let's start again at our starting point over here. And let's map, let's go to 180 degrees, which is going to be right there. So let's move the red dot all the way around until we're mapping to 180 degrees, which would be right there. Okay, and then we've got to check to see, does F map to C? So F is now over here. I hope you can read upside down. F is there. And let's see what F is mapping to. It is C. Okay, so F maps to C. So the answer to that is true. I hope you could tell just by looking at this, by the way, that F and C were 180 degrees apart because they're on the same line. C, the center line, and F are collinear. So positive 180 or negative 180 would definitely map F into C. So the answer here is true. And then the last question we really don't need the diagram for. Under a rotation, no point can map into itself. Well, we know that's false, right? We've already said over and over that the center point always maps into itself. But it's the only point that maps into itself. So if the question asked, under a rotation, no point other than the center point can map into itself, the answer would be yes, as long as the rotation isn't 0 degrees, because a rotation of 0 degrees would keep all points the same, right? So as long as the rotation was not a 0-degree rotation, any positive or negative rotation would keep only the center point the same and change every other point. Every other point would rotate in a circular movement around the center point.